Hey champions, hey everyone who's watching. Thank you for joining us for another game design live stream. I'm really excited to get into this one. We're going to be talking about how we design a card for Genesis, some of the thought process. I won't be going into a lot of details. Again, these type of videos are more overviews of our process and the thoughts that we have. Let me make sure I'm monitoring the chat as it's going. So, yeah, we'll dig into this. Just remember, at the end of the stream, we are going to be doing some pack openings, and you have a chance of winning that by answering a question that I'll be posting after we do the pack opening. This will be eligible to people who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Just make sure that your chat's coming in by saying hello in the stream so we know you're there. Alright, so before I jump into the chat, as always, I want to hey Steve, thanks for letting me know. That sounds good. Before we jump into the actual conversation, I want to make sure we go over the mission statement, why we're doing these presentations, or why am I doing these presentations. Number one is always practice. Practice, practice, practice. I want to get better at presenting and talking about game design. I think that overall, this is just a good skill to have. So I may feel uncomfortable at times, I may stutter, but I want to feel more confident being in front of the camera, presenting, and trying out new styles. So I think with this week, I'm doing something a little bit different. The second thing about this presentation is a commitment to the community. I want you to know who I am and be able to have a conversation with me, even if it is just through these live streams once a week. I think that there is a lot of value in having some form of back and forth communication with the community. And the last thing is putting out content related to creating TCGs and CCGs. There's a lot of content out there for board games and card games and all that, a lot. But when it comes to specifically this hobby space, there is very few variety of sources. I won't say that there's no content out there. There's a lot of content out there. It's just, there aren't so many different voices in the space giving you different perspectives. So I wanted to come and share my learnings so that you have one more perspective to add when you come to design your own TCG, or you come and design stuff for Genesis. Who knows? And we'll talk about that later, because there's an opportunity for the players to help design cards for Genesis. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you to Andrew, Gunther, Hill, Steven, Stevo, and Will for being our top tier supporters and always being there for us. We actually got a lot of new Patreon members this month, and I'll be giving a huge shout out to them next month. But thank you to everyone who supports us. You have just a few more days to sign up to get that promo, Underworld Knowledge. There's also the promo afterwards is already planned. I'm trying to remember what it is. Oh, it's Breath of Jaelara, which is a super awesome card. And if you want to get that, you gotta join Patreon. And also a huge shout out and thank you to our Future Leaguers. We do Future League testing, or more importantly, Alex and his team does the Future League testing Friday nights on Tabletop Simulator through Discord. So if you want to join our Discord, the links are in the description of this video. That's every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tabletop Simulator. So come join. And if you want to be part of the deeper conversation of the actual future of the game and the design process and everything else, join us on April 5th at 6 p.m. There'll be a Zoom link and you can come and join our next roundtable where we talk about different things related to Genesis. Alright, I think that's all the announcements. Let's jump into this talk. So, designing, the whole entire design process, at the end of the day, it should be fun. If you're not having fun designing your game, be it a TCG, be it a board game, be it an RPG, whatever you design, if you're not having fun designing it, there's a whole other issue you got to address there, a deeper systemic issue. But when it comes to how you go about designing things, these are the 5 things I'm going to talk through. There are different philosophies that I have when it comes to designing cards. So the run, crawl, walk, run process. Learning the basics, the top bun and the bottom bun. I like to think of when you design a card, it's kind of like a hamburger. and you got the bottom bun, which supports everything, the top bun, which is your little bit of flair, and all the ingredients that go into the middle to make it work. And then the last thing is research, research, research. So let's jump into this. If you have any questions, make sure you're putting them in the chat. We will have time at the end to answer questions as we go through. All right. Run, crawl, walk, run. What do I mean here? I do very thoroughly believe in the idea that when you first start designing things, you should use your enthusiasm, your excitement, your passion to go full steam. You should just start designing things like crazy. You should have a lot of fun with this. Not every idea is going to be great. Not everything is going to be perfect, but use that excitement and the passion to at least start. So I have here, like, use the momentum, create crazy ideas, cards, champions, mechanics, whatever you want to do, and then just start testing them as soon as possible. Don't get married to any of these ideas, these early ideas. Don't say that these have to be set in stone or this is what I have to do. Just start testing them as soon as possible. And the joy here is that you will have a game, you'll have something that you're actually doing right away, which is really, really fun. And so I do say, like, at the very beginning, once you have an idea, you have a bunch of concepts, start building them out, start testing them. Don't think about writing the rule book. Don't think about formalizing your grammar structure or even spell checking. Just put it together and start going with it. Now, after you get all those ideas out and you test them and they collapse miserably, not all of them will, but a lot of them will. That's okay. That's good. That's where you want to be, because that gives you the ability to start scaling back and asking yourself what worked, what didn't work. And then you can start building up the basics. You can start in that crawl mentality of scaling things down, working on the simple things, working on the smaller parts, and going from what really works there. So everything you should, after you found what works and what doesn't, scale back and start working on simple ideas. Everything you design should have the same attention to detail. So you may try something out and you pay a lot of attention to making this really cool dragon or really cool attack ability, but then it doesn't work. Well, the time and attention you put towards making that particular mechanic, what did you learn from there? What can you extrapolate and put towards your next process? And then when you do start in the crawl process, you start small, you start with things that you know will work, then you start building up, and then you get back into that run mentality. And once you're there, you'll now have so much more experience driving you every step of the way. So we had a game designer that worked on the project for a little while, and he had a lot of great ideas, and it was wonderful. I was really excited for him. And at first I was trying to hold him back and be like, no, don't try to design too much. Design simple, think small. And I realized that this was the wrong approach with him, with everyone, because that stifled him. All of a sudden, he just didn't want to design anymore. So instead, I gave him a lot of freedom to just design everything he wanted. We put everything into Future League and just started testing it. And he enjoyed it so much more. So again, you're making a game, you're making a system, and you're having fun with it. That's gonna show in your work. So don't hold back at the beginning. Just go for things as much as possible, and then once you realize what doesn't work, then you go back to the crawl mechanic. So moving on, learn the basics. Very similar to being in that crawl state. Do you know your game's formula? Do you know your game's lore? Do you know your game's essential experience? If you don't know what the essential experience is, we talked about it. I think it was the second game design live stream that I did. So let's talk about the game's formula. Did we know our game's formula from the very beginning? No. No way whatsoever. All the cards that are designed in alpha and beta, it's pure instinct. It was pure experience. I had no formal, rigid way of defining why did one thing cost more? Why do the elementals cost 13? Why did the hunting helm cost 5? Why does Angel Retribution cost 25? Why does Bolt Shot cost 4? There was no rhyme or reason to things. It was just through experience, through testing, through fine-tuning this design process. But what we were able to do later, actually, this is something I want to give a huge shout out to Carl for doing, is he reverse engineered it. He started seeing the patterns in my process, and started figuring out, all right, the Death's Companion is 3 health, which if you equate that to 15 aura, then it's on scale with other 6 chi summons. And he started finding all these patterns and connecting the dots. And through that process, we actually started having the very first intro to the formula. Now, our game formula is pretty intense. Anyone who's worked with it, I know Alex has worked with it quite a bit. Lionel has too. They know that it's not a simple formula. I'm really grateful for my time in university spent doing so much math stuff. The formula is not perfect though. Nothing we design is perfect because we're humans, but it gives us a good starting point, and we try to adhere to the formula as much as possible because we believe that it's going to create balance in the game. Do you know the game's lore? Did we at the beginning? I had a rough idea. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. If we take Hunting Hound, for example, I had this idea that it was going to be Malik's pet, and I wanted it to show how a hound, which could have been like a very soft and gentle creature, but through the war that's going on and through the savageness that is occurring, these hunting hounds became very vicious animals. So they went from more tame pets to very vicious animals, and that disposition is the lore we're trying to show in Alpha and Beta, is how the world looks like now that it's in a state of constant turmoil and grief and pain and conflict. So the lore as a whole wasn't in place, and we're still building it out. I know we're getting really close to having a good concept of how the universe works. I had an initial idea, but it wasn't all there at the beginning, and that's fine. Going back to the previous point of just running with it, I just ran with it. I didn't need everything to be there. I just started putting ideas out there and then started working backwards, going back to the basics. The last thing here, do you know your game's essential experience? In Genesis, we talk about this a lot. It's the pit fight. We want that feeling of, if you ever watch Thor Ragnarok, that moment when Thor comes out in the arena for the first time and he's just looking around him and all the crowd's cheering at him, and then Hulk comes out and it's like this epic moment. We kind of wanted that feeling of like when you're Thor walking out, or I think his name's Maximus from Gladiator. It's been a long time since I've seen Gladiator. Chainer, the first time he came out and fought in the pits in the Odyssey block in Magic. If you're playing as a hero in 40k, that idea of coming out as a hero and like just seeing these monsters around you, or this blood-stained arena around you, that's the feeling we wanted for the initial conflict, the initial feeling of the champions coming out at the beginning of the game. And then as the battle goes on, you're comfortable with the space. You're almost ignoring the platform you're fighting on. You're more engaged in the combat. And I think that's true. Like, how many people have looked at the game mats and realized that each of the 4 arenas have the city symbol on them, or that the Sahas one has that aura-like mist around it, or the Ajna one, the little rocks that have the aura weave through it, those appear in other arts, like Gilded, is it Gilded Baboon? No, not Gilded Baboon, the one that kind of looks like Rafiki. I can't remember off the top of my head. But those pieces are always there to keep you immersed in the experience, but the gameplay is really what takes over. All of a sudden, it's survivability. You're there, you're Malik, you're fighting against an angel, and you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to get out of this? You're in the mindset of Malik. And I think the game design team has done a really great job at carrying this essential experience in every step of the way. There's more I want to do with it, especially when it comes to booster packs, the experience of opening a booster pack, but that's further down the line. Alright, next, the top bun. This is the coup de grace that you put on top of everything to kind of tie the experience together. This is the flavor of it. We'll define flavor as the feeling, lore, and experience of that card. So if you think about it, we started off with this idea of just start running, and then once you've stumbled a few times, you'll start figuring out the basics, and then you reverse engineer things. Then you reverse engineer things. You figure out what the baseline is. Now you want to start tying things together in individual components. So we're talking about cards. How does your card, the mechanics and everything it does, tie into the flavor? How do both ends of that spectrum kind of tie together? I wanted to use High Dualis as an example. Actually, if you look at a lot of Lionel's cards, I originally wanted to talk about Yamaduta, then Yamaraja, but the artwork couldn't fit into the slide deck because the resolution was too high, and I was too lazy to go into Photoshop and make a lower resolution image to put into the slide deck, so we picked High Dualis. But a lot of cards Lionel designed, mechanic and flavor tie really well together. If you look at Call to the Bones, I love the fact that it brings out 3 skeletons, and in the artwork there's 3 skeletons. Yamaduta, I love that moment of realizing there's the Baihu there, the Baihu dies, the Yamaduta emerges, and they're both tutus. Like, it's the same concept, and it happens so frequently. The Yamaraja, like, when people think about how am I gonna play Yamaraja, their initial goal is, I want to kill the angel and steal the angel's abilities. That's literally what's happening in the artwork. So let's talk about High Dualis' artwork. This is one of those places that Lionel did a great job with tying the flavor into the mechanics. High Dualis, where does the name come from? It's actually something that Lionel made up. High Dualis is the word hydrogen and the concept of dualism tied together. So High Dualis. Hydrogen is both used in water, H2O, and it's used in, it's highly combustible as a solitary gas in the fire spectrum. So that's how those two things come together. Using Long was a great idea because he has that dual-sided weapon to show different perspectives from different peaks of it. And then just the idea that Bellum itself is not the affiliation of water or fire, but Bellum Thymos is fire. Actually, originally Thymos was supposed to be fire, then got moved to Chaos. But Thymos being fire, you got that end of the spectrum, and then Bellum Axon, you get the water, and it's that end of the spectrum. There's so much little layers of flavors, so many different things that are coming together to make this beautiful card work. And then on top of it, mechanically, it works so well because we have fire chains which stun someone, so you get the fire mechanic. Then you had Hydroblast, a call back to the one and only banned card in Genesis, and that was the thing that pushed it. So everything ties together to make this beautiful piece of artwork, and I think Lionel did a great job with this piece. And so this is one of those things when you're designing a card, having all those things tied together, and sometimes things are thought of retroactively. It wasn't your initial plan. Let's take Call to the Bones, for example. Originally, it was just supposed to bring out 1 skeleton. But then the artwork was created and it brought out 3 skeletons. And then Lionel was like, oh no, we got to change this. So he ended up redesigning the card to bring out 3 skeletons, shifted his chi, made everything kind of work. And now the card feels a lot better. So you want to look more at the finished product and make sure that all ends of the spectrum work together. All right, now let's talk about the other side to it. The bottom of the bun, the foundation, the mechanics. This holds everything up. I don't think that the mechanic is useless without the flavor. I think you need to have both in harmony to make it work. That's why I like the idea that they're both one unit. They're both the bun of the sandwich, but you got the top and the bottom which work together to hold everything together. So when we think about the mechanics, we are thinking about a few different factors. What is this card trying to do to stabilize the game? Does it work within the formula that we've designed? And is it unique? And I'll talk about why I put unique in quotes, because not every card has to be fully unique. So let's talk about Selective Amnesia. This card was purely designed to not stop, but to slow down OTK decks. We were really worried that they were going to run rampant in the game, so we decided to create a card that offset that. So we designed this card as a need, and then created the artwork and everything around it. And it's very important. It's not a card that sees a lot of play. I don't know anyone who really puts this card into their deck as a main board card, but its essence there helped stabilize particular element of the game as a whole. So that's definitely one purpose that we look at when we design cards. The other thing that we look at is what are we doing with the formula? So what are we doing with the formula for these cards? And for that, I actually want to bring out Sky the Storm Dragon. When he was first pitched, what it was the owner of the convention of SkyCon was like, we want to make a promo for the next SkyCon event, and we want to use our mascot for it. And I was like, okay, perfect, let's do this. And we were going through the formula, trying to design things. He's like, I just want to push the card as far as I can go. What is the most intense card we can make? So we knew that Angel was an overpowering card in the game. We then used the formula to see what are the different boundaries we can push, what are the different levers we can switch, and we came up with this. And it was like, yes, we can make this card. He's gonna cost 30 aura, and they were like, go for it. Like, it's totally worth it. And the formula really helps ground us in mechanics. A lot of times, I know the designers create a card and they say, this card's not going to be playable. It's too high in the formula. Can we just reduce the cost? I think this should be the exception to the rule. And I try to hold them back and say there shouldn't be exceptions to the rules. If the problem is that the numbers are coming out wrong, we should reassess the formula as a whole and reassess all the cards that are being designed compared to just making an exception for one card. Now, not every card fits within the formula, and that's definitely one of the weak points about it. Cards like Firehill won't fit in the formula. Fortification don't fit in the formula. That is more of a gut instinct on the designer end. This is what I feel the card should cost. And then we go into testing to see if we're right about it. But vanilla summons, we're pretty confident in the way the formula holds that holds that summon up. So the formula is very key when it comes to creating the mechanics. And then the last part is the uniqueness of the card. So not every card has to be vastly unique from each other. Not every 3-chi is going to be completely separate. There's a lot of them that are just vanilla 1/1s. You know, the Inferno Imp, I don't think its name, it's Inferno Ghoul, right? Or cards like Silverleg Recluse. They're very similar 3-chis. That's okay. But the idea is every card, there should be a debatable purpose for every card. That's one of those things I like to uphold as we grow in Genesis. I want there to not be too many cards that are just strictly better than another version, unless that's intentional. So like Temporal Relocation is strictly better than Blink Shards. That was done on purpose because Blink Shard as it stands just wasn't playable in the meta of Genesis. But Temporal Relocation, it's playable. It may not be out there. Alex, you're gonna say it's not playable, but I love the card. It's debatable of could you run this in the deck. There are certain cards up there that are really, really hard to justify putting in your deck. For a long time, I thought Dodge was, and then after a little while, the community showed me wrong. So, the cards, at the end of the day, I don't want to create cards that are just obsolete, like hold no value in the game. I want to create cards that are playable to one person or another in one format or another. They should have a purpose behind them. So that's what I mean by uniqueness. It needs to have a purpose. All right, on to the last point of research. This point, we're taking another one of Lionel's cards, Chasmodon. The one thing I found is that the more passion, the more love, the more attention you pay to a card, the more it shines in the end. Chasmodon was really a work of passion for Lionel. He saw this creature, which is the Black Swallower, really creepy fish thing. I don't know if it actually exists or if it's just a giant hoax, but it's if you Google search it, you'll find a lot of information about it. It looks terrifying, and Lionel loved this. And we worked really hard on trying to find a way to make this work. So he had something that he was researching, and he learned a lot about and got really, really excited about. And he worked to try to make that a part of the game. Oh, Shahan, thanks for confirming that it is real. It's terrifying, isn't it? Like, it's such a creepy monster. Um, that inspiration for Casmodon is the cutest, most disturbing fish friend I've ever seen. Yeah, right? Like, it's... I love it. I love deep sea creatures. They are terrifying, and it makes me happy. I don't know why. This is gonna get quoted again, isn't it? Anyway, so that passion that Lionel put into that card, I think, really shines because Casmodon came out as such a beautiful piece. He was able to direct the art team to make something that resonates really well with what the Black Swallow is, but at the same time, unique enough and his own. This, you wouldn't see something like Casmodon in another way. Like, it is what it is, and it delivered really, really well. So the more research you put into it, the more that shows in the end. And this is one of the things I try to advocate for my team, is that they pay more attention even to a simple creature like Blackstone Golem. I spent a lot of time researching what would be a good way of portraying that monster, because I wanted something in Vellum. I needed a big bulky creature, and I was going through the different mythologies, started researching Hebrew mythology, got into the golems, learned the lore, and then I also looked into the Egyptian, because I had to tie that into Vadhis, which is a lot of Egyptian landmarkers and things like that, and found out that in the Egyptian history, onyx was seen as the stone of the gods. Like, it was a holy stone, and that way we made a onyx golem, Blackstone Golem, and that's what kind of brought that together. And I really love that card. It doesn't see a lot of play, but I think everything kind of tied together to make that a really cool concept for a card. So research, very, very important when it comes to putting your stuff together. There's a lot more detail in almost every piece in Genesis than I think most players recognize. And even if you never notice it, even if you never see it, we know, and that it makes us happy, and it's what makes the design process exciting as we go on. All right, that's my presentation about game design. I will take questions as you are waiting or thinking about what questions you want to ask. I just want to announce some upcoming events. So remember, every Monday we got the Meta Mondays that are hosted by Will on Tabletop Simulator through the standard Discord channel, which is, again, the link is in the description of this video. He is testing out different decks to see where they rank in the meta system. Really, really cool research. Go help him out. He is doing a phenomenal job with that. At the very least, talk to him and ask him questions about the process that he's going. Does it make sense to you? I think he's such a great guy, and he is doing a lot of really cool things. Exploring the library every Tuesday night. Alex and I do this. I don't know what our topic is for next week. Alex, if you have an idea, leave it in the chat and I'll announce it to everyone. But that's happening every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. The Game Design Talk, this is what we're watching right now. This is 3 p.m. on Eastern, and I'll tell you the next week's topic soon. And then later tonight at 7 p.m., Alex hosts Future League testing. So if you want to be part of the conversation of what's happening with future cards in Genesis, and what you like, what you don't like, come to those, because all the feedback is very important. And then more temporary things. Future League tournament, the next one is April 3rd. Next Akashic Codex Chapter 10 should be scheduled for April 5th, but there might be some delays with that. It's just a bigger chapter than we're expecting. So if there's some delays in the Akashic Codex, don't be alarmed. And then the Town Hall happening on April 5th as well, 6 p.m. That's going to be just general, I have some questions. I just want to have a conversation with the community. So, does anyone have any questions? I'll put this up for a few seconds so we can admire the meteorite. I didn't know that you could put GIFs into side decks, so I'm really happy about this, because look at that. It looks so cool, the flame. Yeah, I like my art team. Alright, thank you, Steven. You got a question. When designing card, how do you keep feeling and egos out of the process if the card design is deemed too powerful, too complicated to print, even after testing? So That's actually a really, really great question. I can't believe I didn't even address that in this. But I think on one end, especially for new designers, this is really, really hard. They just assume that everything they say and everything they do is golden, and it's hard to take that aback. Now, I have worked with game designers that are very modest, and I like to call Carl out on that for being such a great understanding game designer. He is able to separate his feelings from his design a lot. Um, but at the same time, when he gets committed to things like Vorpal Blades, he loved Vorpal Blades, and I think that shines in every aspect of that card and how much he plays it. Um, so what we try to do is have enough checkpoints as early as possible. I want, if a card's gonna get rejected, we want to reject it as soon as possible so that feelings don't get involved, so people aren't hurt about the process. So that's why when we were doing the roundtable pitches for card ideas, it's a lot of don't put effort into formatting the card, into naming the card, into anything. Give me very high level. What is your idea? So, Stone Protector Nye started with the idea of the TARDIS. That's all Carl said. Is like, let's put the TARDIS into the game. And after some debate, we're like, yeah, let's go for it. But he wasn't married to the idea because it was just an off the cuff remark. Um, and then what are some of the other cards? Yeah, so I know that there are a lot of cards that are kind of pitched that way. I just can't remember any off the top of my head. Um, and you throw it out there as soon as possible, as soon as you have the idea, so that you're not overly committed to it. And when it gets rejected, you're not super attached to it. It's not the end of the world if it goes away. But I think it is really important to have those checks as early as possible so that feelings don't get involved. But once you do get passionate about a card and it does get rejected, you can do one of two things. One is letting it go, which is most of the times the right idea, especially if it's overly complex. The other is iterating on it. And my mantra, life mantra, and I actually had this echoed back to me at some point, which was really cool, is that people actually listen to me. But learn, pivot, keep moving. If you have an idea and it fails, learn from the failings, pivot, so either reject it or iterate on it, and then just keep moving. So I know Carl Malfeasant, he pitched maybe 8 or 9 ideas before the final idea came about, and he kept on trying. All right, this idea. All right, let's refine it. Let's refine it. Let's refine it. Okay, this isn't working. Let's go down another path. Refine it, refine it, refine it. Go down another path. Because he was just stuck on this idea of, I wanted a card, Cold Malfeasance, that did something similar to this idea. And eventually he delivered. He worked really, really hard and made it deliver. But then other ideas, like Lionel has this idea of like a card that hits an alteration, and then the alteration blows up and it's shrapnel hitting everything else. That idea didn't really see much development, and we just like, yeah, it's hard to try to create that card. It's fun card to have in testing, but it's hard to put into actual booster packs because the meta constantly, it doesn't support that kind of card. So those ideas we just let go, or we put into a back burner. Sometimes the designer holds it in the back of the mind for a very long time to publish something else later. So it's hard. I don't think any designer is perfectly able to move on for this, because to design something that's really great, you have to put emotions into it. But if you can find a way to, I hate this expression, but it's the one that's used a lot, which is kill your baby. Early on, it's good because it'll help you iterate. So I know, convoluted answer, but hopefully that gives you some idea. All right. If you have more questions, feel free to throw them. I'm just gonna move on. So I do want to talk about the Genesis. Sorry, that should say Q2 League. I don't know. I say it's Q1. I'll update that later. But design your own card by winning the Genesis Q2 League. This is starting beginning of next month. So April, May, and June. There's 6 tournaments. Enter them, participate, and if you walk out with the most amount of points, then you'll get to design a card that goes into a future set of Genesis. So how do you participate? You got to participate in one of the 6 upcoming tabletop simulator tournaments. All the information for those tournaments are on our event page on the website. So go to the GenesisBattleChampions.com, and then under events, you'll find upcoming tournaments, and you should be able to sign up for them. For each tournament that you participate in and you win a match, you get 1 point. So if that tournament is only hosting 3 rounds, then your best score you can get out of that tournament is 3 points, right? At the end of the league, we end up getting all those points together, and whoever has the highest, they'll win it, and they'll get to work with our design team to design a card for an upcoming set. So if that's something you're interested in, if you really want to get your name on the bottom as a designer for a particular card, this is the way to do it. All right, let's give away some boost packs. So let's switch the camera over. All right, I got 2 packs for us today, Erica and Kun. So let's go for it. It's kind of cool. If you read the article from earlier this week, you'll know that these race packs are slowly becoming harder and harder to get your hands on. So, all right, let's see what we got for today's pack. All right, starting off with the very cute and adorable Draconian Vixen, Mirage Oasis, Takisaki, Shark Lizard, Flamejet, Industrial Mouse, Baihu, Skeleton Warrior, Stable Footing, Sidestep. That's awesome. Fork Lightning. This is a card that I wish we would see more play with. I don't know what people are playing it. I think it's a really great budget option. I guess now we're seeing a lot of people playing Tabletop Simulator, so people don't need to play budget options of cards. But it's definitely a good uncommon if you're looking for something in Chaos. Zyfang. I love this. I think it's one of my favorite 3Ts. Hallowed Sentry. Sorry about the focus. Again, I'm still not used to shifting things over. Hallowed Sentry. I love this card because I think it's a really, really great budget version of Gilded Stag. And it has a particular place in the game, especially with that awareness. Alright, we got a champion. We got the full art Odara, which is super cool. And then our rare is the Tadia Jin. Alright, I think I pronounced it properly. So, that's our rare from the first pack. Going into the second pack. What was your favorite card from the pack? I'm curious. I do have a question, which will give you the opportunity to win both these packs. But does anyone out there play with Fork Lightning? Is that something that people enjoy playing with? Or is it just me? Alright, going into the next pack. Got the Shock Lizard, Cattail. Actually, I've seen a lot of people play with the Cattail more recently. I'm starting to appreciate it more as a card. I think the summons with heavy attack, as time goes on, I'm appreciating them a lot more as summons because they have so much more health on average. Engulfing Wrath, Evom. Alright, Weighted Net. This is a card that I only play Spoon Lightning. We gotta make that at some point, right? A Weighted Net is a card that I wish there was just more opportunity to play it. Definitely Returned again. I think this is really cool because it can bounce back to Chrono Walker, so it's something to think about. Selective Amnesia, we were just talking about that earlier in the stream. And then what do we got here? Odar, so both the full art and regular Odar, and our rare is Divine Covering. So those are our 2 rares. We got Divine Covering and the Jin. If you want to win the contents from both of these booster packs, then just let me know which card you think in Genesis has the best flavor. And first person to put up their answer will get both packs. So anyone who's watching, just feel free to do that. And I think I'll play more Fork Lightnings when electric damage gains more support. Yeah, that's true. I definitely agree that electric damage needs more support. Fork Lightning and Chain Lightning, I think, are going to get a lot more power at that point. So, and then next week's topic is going to be the idea that it's important to be playing other people's games. I think when you're in the design process, something that people don't do a lot of is see what's out there, see what the competitors are doing, and they get so stuck into their own design process that they don't do enough comparables. And it's not just trying out other collectible card games, or if you're making a miniature, other miniatures. It's everything in a bunch of different spaces. So that's what I'm going to be talking about next week. I didn't see anyone put out there what your favorite, which card do you think has the best flavor in Genesis. Feel free to put that up there. I'll have the stream running for a little bit with the closing scene here. But that's it for this week. Thank you everyone who joined. Thank you everyone who is supporting the game and supporting the process. The Patreon members, you do so much to help us grow. Actually, I want to give a huge shout out to some of the to James from Hit Point Sales. We've been seeing a lot of good growth with Genesis over the past little while, and a lot of that has to do with the amazing support Hit Point Sales has given us over the past little while. So I want to make sure I send out a lot of appreciation there. And it kind of as a side note, and it's just something that's been on my mind a lot. This month has been Steve, my favorite flavor is for Stone Protector. Personally, the idea that a statue or its location is temporarily malleable in its location is cool. Nice. All right, Steven. I think I don't know if I dropped off last time's packs to you either, but we got to let people know that these videos, there's a chance to win packs, so I'll be promoting that more. I do want to kind of close off on a bit of a sadder note. This month, I've had a lot of friends who have lost people that are very close to them. A lot of family has passed away, and I just want to send out condolences to everyone who's been having a rough time in the past year. This month is particularly difficult for me because this year I not celebrated. I mourned the 5 years since my mom passed away, and for people who weren't there in the beginning, you know that you may not know that I started this company as kind of a way to remember my mom, because she always thought I was very skilled at business stuff, and I was not wasting my time, but I should be redirecting my attention from computer science into business. But it took something really big to happen for me to make that realization. So to everyone who's lost someone in the past little while, I want to send my condolences, and yeah, I hope you're doing okay. And if you ever need to talk, message me. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk again next week. Bye.